Thank you very much. Now I guess I'm ready. And how to connect animal welfare with biosafety and with health, animal health. It's a very close relation because, and why? Because when we work on animal welfare, we have to work on healthy animal. Any animal with an infectious disease won't be able to have a normal behavior, so we won't be able to even see that animal. Then we have to worry of having a good animal health. And how does it affect us? It will affect us because when there is no good health, there will be epidemic events, endemic events of infectious diseases. And at the same time, they will cause mortalities, morbidity, disease, emergency slaughter, and finally, all of them contrary to an efficient swine production, which as a purpose has to generate animal protein of swine and with an appropriate quality for human consumption. And here we have some examples on how biosafety and health animal can generate great losses in the swine industry. For example, this is an image of the swine epidemic, the outbreak 2013 to 2014 in the United States, which even caused 100% of piglets mortality. What welfare are we conducting if we have 100% of piglets dead? Emergency slaughter in outbreaks of African swine. And finally, some behavior associated to an improper animal welfare, such as caudophagia, and are related directly with slaughter. They are conditions generating that an animal we thought it was healthy for a big period of time. This is a vertebral lesion. This is why it is important to have good health to implement our protocols. Therefore, our main concerns in animal are infectious diseases of high health impact for pigs, but we must not forget that there are also zoonotic diseases, many of them emerging, accompanied by the concept of good health, because swines can also be source of infections to us, such as you may remember H1N1 pandemic, virus and influenza. And on the other hand, we have food biosafety that is related and is relevant when it comes to the use of antibiotics. I have to remind you, there is a chapter of biosafety and animal health in the context of animal welfare on Article 7.13.24. You can review that. So we first have to define biosafety. It's the set of activities whose purpose is the control and means of propagation of pathogenic biological agents. Which are these agents? Mainly, they will be virus, bacteria, and there might also be fungi and parasites. And we will define how to prevent the entry, to contain and avoid internal designation of these pathogens and contain so the pathogen do not go out of our exploration, avoiding dissemination, propagation, and the spread of in other producers. Generally speaking, we know that pathogens can move in standing on two feet. We ourselves, human beings, are producers of diseases also in 4 feet, which is semen and swine. They are very well known to transmit and spread diseases, but at the same time, some of them even have wings. Pigeons flies, felines, cats, mice. Many of you may believe that if you are not in a farm, you cannot imagine the amount of animals you will find there in the pen. I believe that the easiest is to imagine that there are flies, because in many times you can observe them from far away. We work to fight that, but we can also find some other species such as cats, dogs, and mice, and also birds. And we can divide the biosafety in two big areas, one national and predial biosafety, in the point that as a country we need to protect from a lot of overseas infections, not only affecting the swine, but also other animal and vegetal species. And this is why we have the livestock. We have several representatives, and they work on the eradication of these overseas diseases, which are pretty relevant because they generate several losses nationally and internationally. And this is done by programs, and an important adjustment is avoiding the introduction and prevent the introduction of diseases such as fever, swine flu, African swine flu, and the livestock service has some important milestone I like to highlight, such as if we are countries free from African swine flu that's been eradicated like 20 years before. After it's also a joint work of producers and the agricultural service. And if we review our main concerns on a national level, as an overseas, this is the African swine flu spread in Europe. There have been some outbreaks in China. Always the respiratory syndrome, whether it is a disease present, it's been controlled, and it's under eradication process. And obviously, feet and fowl fever, all these are probabilities. Most likely it enters due to the movement of swine, semen, and in a less measure humans. But there is some evidence explaining the possibility for transmission through feed, grains, export grains. They might introduce certain viruses to the different countries, and as you know, raw material for the preparation of food, at least in Chile, are all imported. In the year 2013, 2014, the swine epidemic diarrhea virus emerged in United States, and the viruses arriving in United States were pretty similar to those which were generating outbreaks in China. Therefore, it is believed the transmission virus component due to the transfer of food from China to United States. Then it was confirmed that the raw material or food could transport the swine epidemic virus in the first outbreaks in Canada. Therefore, this hypothesis is gaining effort. As a matter of fact, G, one of the scholars in this topic, has assessed the possibility of transfer of different viruses, classic and swine flu and some others, and he has demonstrated that there is a great evidence that some of these viruses can even survive more than 30 days in food. Therefore, even when there's less or little evidence, I believe we have to consider it as a virus transmission source. If we look at percentages, which allocated a lower percentage if this African swine flu were transmitted through raw material. That would mean everybody would be infected, and that has happened. When we talk about predial biosafety, we have to take care about the overseas diseases, but we also have to take care of the endemic diseases. And we have three of them which are relevant today on a national level. I suppose that each country should have, must have each problem. We are leading with influences, Zika virus, and PRREs. We have to consider the same long-distance ways of transmission, but some of them that happen in a shorter distance, among them, the personal biosafety, intruders or stealers, thieves, showers, contaminated cell phones, and so on, and other factors such as the air, flies, and so on. There are several sources of viruses that have been evaluated on laboratory level, but concrete evidence from all these sources has not always been found, but it is possible we can think that viruses through mice, cats and dogs, people, water, even air. To confirm this type of transmission, research must be conducted, epidemiological research must be conducted based on surveys, but something much more objective is the genetic assessment of viruses or the pathogens found in the various farms. And this is why we use phylogenia, which gives us a phylogenetic genetic tree consisting of a graphic representation of the relativeness of the species we are comparing. This is how the gorilla and the human has a closer relation. Then the branches are shorter when compared to the mice, which is further beyond, but they are all in the same group that would be mammals. In that way, and I will show you examples of these three diseases through the use of phylogenia, and I will also show you the ways of transmission in the country. Let's talk about the Pierce virus. It's an overseas disease. It's under eradication process, and it generates great mortality and abortion problems during the whole gestation and great mortality in the first weeks of life. It could also generate 60 to 80% of mortality before 21st day. We can see a picture here, a national one, where we can clearly see the animals aspect. This is, it does not have a high burden of periods, probably not, but you can see clearly the state of these piglets affected by that disease, where the conditions are poor, there's diarrhea present, and they will soon die soon during this development. The Pierce virus was introduced in 2013 in October. Its a genetic origin based on these phylogenetic trees we have done comes from the United States. Therefore, the introduction source is still unknown. Probably we will never know that. But the way it's being transmitted was due to geographic closeness lower than 2 kilometers or shorter than 2 kilometers, and this also being two introductions that can be attributed to animal movement happening beyond 2 kilometers. There is undetermined introduction, there have been 4, and in the farm there were further than 2 kilometers and 60 kilometers of distance. And it is possible that the virus escape has played a role. And here we have a graph, a tree. This is the graph representation of the study we conducted, where we can see here in blue the different national entities, in red, intensive and the backyards in red, they also represent the peers. It's not the virus flying to the backyards, but it was shown that the virus showed transmission when it came to the informal sale of animals and the stealing of animals. We had experienced, this picture represents that, and we showed that when the virus is 200 meters away, that was the test, the Pierce virus was sufficiently transmitted in less than 5 days. That's the picture, probably through the air, but also through flies. Something that is very difficult to control, and we have to constantly avoid. And obviously, logically, the animal stealing. This is not a picture taken in Chile, but it can exemplify what happens. And here we have a spatial image where we can see it was a Pierce focus, a very important one between this farm, company A and company B, A and B. There is a distance shortened than 500 meters, and between B and C, less than 200 meters difference. So the disease transmission is very easy when this happens. Let's go to other disease that has impacted the industry, which is the A influenza virus. It's not considered to be transboundary, but it's relevant since it implies this health risk, and it has the potentiality to generate pandemic stains. And it has a retrosomatic, it means the human being can be a vector and transmit it. Ferrets and pigs are very susceptible to the human influenza virus, as well as cats and dogs. Pay attention to that. We have studied this virus for 9 years as PS. However, it was not a new introduction of the virus. The virus has existed since for some time, and we shown that 100% of national farms present this virus, and we have evidenced that at least 17 introduction of viruses have been attributable to direct transmission from human to pigs. That's in the case of this virus of pandemic lineage of 2009. It is also it is still present in human beings, and that is a risk because it could possibly result in transmissions from human beings to pigs. There's also other variables, other variants, not from the pandemic virus, which have been transmitted, attributed to closeness in distance or to transmission of animals, animal movement, geographic closeness explain 100% of this new virus introduction, unlike Pierce, which showed something not clear, and it could be associated to the stealing act, something that has not happened in influenza because backyards are all susceptible to viruses. Here we can see the phylogenetic trees. Probably it's not clear, this image. They are in different colors and highlighted by a red dot. You can see the different variants of viruses found in different farms, and they are associated to human viruses. For example, we have found that the San Fernando virus, or the human virus from San Fernando, is the same of a farm in San Fernando. These red posts represent that, whereas in this chart, they are viruses which have been in pigs for a long time. And for example, the farm, which is in green, has been a constant source for transmission to other companies marked in other colors. And this has mainly been due to the animal transfer movement. Animal commercialization within farms allows for a transmission, an easy transmission of the viruses. Therefore, we have to generate precaution measures for the staff, for example, the use of masks, and also quarantines in the case of animals. It's also been shown that the influenza can be transmitted within farms. And finally, we have the Seneca virus, a virus that has been recently introduced in the country. It's been detected in April 2022, and it's an emerging virus described in less than 10 countries, and it generates the vesicular lesions similar to mouth and feet fever, which is the transboundary disease in the world. So that confusion, that differential diagnostics generates a problem. We have also conducted some epidemiological research to identify its origin, and genetically speaking, it's related to viruses present in the United States, and to date, there is a limited spread confirmed only in 2 companies. The source of introduction from outside Chile to our country, it's unknown. Some hypotheses include the introduction of contaminated food or raw material to generate food. However, this hasn't been studied thoroughly yet. However, in the country, some things have been attributed to the closeness, geographic closeness, and they have shown that it has happened at least 14 times, while undetermined introductions, fewer than 2 weeks, there was another transmission by other company, and that transmission was further than 2 kilometers. Therefore, it can be classified as an undetermined one, and we are working on the epidemiologic reason to see how this virus entered. Probably the illegal animal movement might play a role, or the stealing. And to date, no impact is known in batches whether there are illegal animal movement, and again, probably it has an important role. Here's the image, a phylogenetic tree with all sequence available on our level. This is short or a small dot in Chile, where the Chilean islet is directly related and genetically related to strains obtained in United States during this last period of time. And here, let me mention, this last virus introduction happened in less than 2 weeks before, where probably flies play a role. It's been determined that I can even live 28 days, and they can fly in a period of 2 days, even 7 kilometers. And with that information, that my transmission could have been possible through flies, since the close and positive farms are in a distance shorter than 7 kilometers, but we cannot discard the illegal animal movement due to animal stealing. This is something we're trying to determine. And here we have an example. You don't get scared because I'm showing probably your farm, but no name is here, no problem, and it is in Google Maps, open. This is just to show the closeness within some farms, less than 2 kilometers, or sometimes 2 kilometers. It shows that there might be disease transmission risk, and in some cases, I won't say which one, we have shown disease transmission confirmed by genetic analysis. Therefore, this type of farm positioning shows that there is a big risk for disease transmission within farms. Then, under these circumstances, particularly here, some joint strategies must be implemented for the disease report and prevention of those. In my opinion, joint programs for prevention should be conducted when farms are too close one from another, particularly if they are from different farms. Communication is relevant. I just need to say here that apart from humans and pigs, there are other factors, flies or wind, for example, and the illegal animal movement. Therefore, besides biosafety, the concept of safety needs to be implied and strongly implied, because we may have all protocols of fences, taking a shower at the entry, but once we go home, pigs stay there alone for a period of time where there might spoil our biosafety work because they are not interested in taking showers, right? You see, they will just get there. So biosafety, safety is also a recommendation. Then, and we will say that there are some biosafety breaks. Then as a recommendation on a national level, it would be good to have an integrated system where producers know the casuistic covering on a national level, whether there is more influenza or others, through an integration of the laboratory results and reports of clinical outbreaks. Sometimes we do not have all the diagnostics, but it would be enough if you notify, okay, I'm having diarrhea, a sort of integrated report to help producers start thinking that there might be a problem. And as a committee, joint problem disease prevention, health reports, plague control, and biosafety. Safety. Conclusions, biosafety is the responsibility and joint work of all the sectors involved. It is relevant when it comes to the joint work between neighboring farms in long distance due to movement of pig semen and human fomites, main and short distance vectors and security breaches. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's been a very interesting conversation. And I believe I'm on the screen now. All right, and we got some questions here. I will start with Marcela Cubillos. She's asking, I had two questions for Dr. Neira. PRRS disease until 2017, there was only focuses. Why was it declared endemic and it was not eradicated? Can this be eradicated? And the second question is about Seneca. Why do you refer to it as an endemic? The second question, I didn't get it. It's about Seneca. Why do you refer to it as endemic? It was recently, well, what happened is that endemic is a concept I used, exotic and endemic. Exotic is not an endemic it is. It's simply that I consider the pathogen to be endemic because it can be classified as an endemic or exotic disease. That's the first thing regarding the other question. Well, I guess I have answered those two questions with one answer. But when it comes to the PIS, the eradication program, it's moving on. I cannot give details of the current status. What is officially known, there is still a positive sector, and probably that answer might be given by someone from the SAC. But we need to continue defining whether it's been eradicated or not. Okay, thank you very much, doctor. Congratulations for your lecture.